desire? I don't know. Do you think this feeling can last forever? You mean like forever, ever? Forever, ever? Forever, ever? Forever, ever? Sure. God, I hope so. Me too.
Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight, the nice little chillaxing show where I hang out with y'all in the chat room. We just talk about shit that's going on. My name is Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of the YouTube channels Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. What I should probably say now is, given the performance of my latest two videos on the two channels, hi, my name is Tristan Johnson of Tristan Won't Shut Up, and to a much lesser degree of Step Back History. I stream on this platform that you're watching this on 3 times a week. On Mondays, I do a show from 12 to 2 Eastern called The Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder. It's real fun. You'll like it. By the way, Tashu Cashew, thank you for following, and that's a really fun name to say. Yeah, on Tuesdays from 7 to 10, the show you're watching right now, I am doing Step Back Tonight, where we chill and we talk about stuff. It's fun. Some tasty-ass water. And then on Fridays, I do The Reactor from 2 to 5, which is a fun show that we do. Hey! I go by he, him pronouns. If you want to find my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com, tristanwon'tshutup.com, and Tristan PJ on Twitter. That's, I think, all the things that I like to push. I need to make a new business card very soon. I should show you guys. I made Step Back business cards like a long-ass time ago. And they were great for the time I made them. But I bought 500 of them, not thinking that, hey, you might be redesigning your business cards at some point. And so I've gone to like 3 VidCons now with this design, which anybody who is a Step Back aficionado knows that, like, this is some seriously outdated design going on here. And now I have a whole other channel to add to this. And on top of that, I don't draw myself like this anymore either. In fact, I only drew myself like this in a very brief period in 2016 when I was, what's it called? When I made these cards. Around the time that I first got, what's it called? The Adobe suite. Yeah. Yes. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is, if you're watching this on Twitch and you have Amazon Prime, just want to say to you that you have 1 free Amazon Prime subscription every month. And if you don't use it, Amazon just gets to keep your money. And if you do use it, you can use it on Twitch to help out an independent creator who maybe doesn't have a big, multi-billion-dollar corporation to keep them afloat. And so you'd be really helping out, and it would be really awesome. If you chose Step Back, I'd be even more grateful. But I'm not going to make that a necessity, obviously. As for what content I have, I kind of always like to start my stream with giving an idea of like where I am in stuff I'm working on. Currently, I've got 4 projects that are in some form of development. I have a Step Back video that is currently on pause for a couple days while I sort out a contract thing. I just, what's it called? I was making this video for October expecting to not have a sponsorship. But, what's it called? I got thrown off by some people thinking that maybe I hadn't, or thinking I might have had an echo. Anyways, I've got a Step Back video that is on pause until I work out a sponsorship that somebody wanted to swoop up to grab for October. So that'll be fun. I get to be a whole new type of shill for a different company that's not Skillshare. That's going to be fun. And then I also have to. So Tristan Won't Shut Up. I just finished editing the next Tristan Won't Shut Up video. The most recent one was on planned economies, but the next one should be coming out tomorrow at noon Eastern. And if you're a patron, you can watch it now, or I should say, you can watch it after this stream is over. That's a better thing to say. Yeah, so that's good. So tomorrow I'm gonna get started on the next one, which I have ideas for. Looking at the data, I think that it looks like I should be making something on COVID, maybe. No, or I don't know. I have to take. Oh no, I already know what I'm making the video about. I already took a look today. It's about post-capitalist schools. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. My latest Step Back video is on Emma Goldman, and my next one is going to be a sequel to that. What's it called? It's going to be a sequel to Dinesh D'Souza Infinity War. It's going to be fun. I'm working on it right now. Yeah, but that's everything. That's all of like the. Oh, and also I'm working on a script for the Cold War. That one is, in production, which I'm sure, like, when I make scripts for the Cold War, sometimes it's months before it actually ends up being a video, so who knows when you'll see this. But I'm basically writing the Cold War's civil rights era, the first part of their civil rights movement videos, and yeah. I seem to be the person who gets all of the topics that's going to result in the comment section basically getting angry. So, because I write all of the America stuff, and I am a lib SJW who hates America and freedom and loves Stalin or something. I don't know. The comments are weird. And then I got a project for another website that I think I'm gonna just keep on the DL for now. But that's kind of like life. It was exhausting just to say all the things that I was doing, let alone actually do all of them, so bleh. Okay, let's see what the chat's up to. I ought to be sleeping. Yeah, Gad, it's very late in the occupied Palestinian territory that the international community calls Israel. If you have a... oh, you're following both streams, okay. Story I told about the girl getting slapped on the arse. Wait, we established this last week. Okay. Hello, my name is an English person. That story I told you about the girl getting slapped on the arse. The point was that I was trying to ask if it's wrong to report someone else's sexual harassment or assault without asking them. Like, suppose you were out socializing with Mexi, and she told you she'd been harassed at work in some way. Oh, I'm doing the Bernard Cronshaw. Would it be wrong for you then, without her permission, go to a university's HR department and complain? Yeah. You should encourage them to do that, but you should not do that yourself. That is, a breach of privacy over something that might, they might not be ready to handle or deal with. Or there might be contexts and complexities that you don't understand. The other day, Steve Shive said that he doesn't buy that economic anxiety leads to fascism because there's a lot of Trump supporters that are well off. I sent a question into his next AMA where I explained it's not that poor people with economic anxiety vote for fascism. It's that the middle class people vote for fascism because they're afraid of poor people with economic anxiety. Am I right about that? Bang on! That is the answer. That is, I want to play a YouTube video for you. My answer to your question is this. All right, let's. I know it's a rare form. It's not Friday, but unfortunately, this needs to be played in response to what you said, because this. Yes, let's do this. There we go. Stop that autoplay, that cursed autoplay. But yeah, that's generally my answer. I should just keep that around, just in case I need it again. It's probably one of my favorite weird memes on the internet. Anyways. On the 17th, my brother and his wife are going in to scan to find out the sex of their twins. I right to think it's kind of gross and problematic. The NHS calls this a gender scan. I mean, it's incorrect. But like, what's it called? As far as like bullshit related to mixing up gender and sex, it's one of the more minor ones. I don't. There is a lot of complexity about dealing with the fact that people typically don't find out what their gender identity is until until they've been around for a while, and so that actually can be kind of complicated. And I don't have. I mean, like, as what I'm gonna say is like, it definitely could be better, and they probably shouldn't call it a gender scan. I'm hoping that that's also part of it, other parts of regular pregnancy things, but like, also, we live in a cis-normative society, and while it'd be great if they changed it, it's low on the list of things that are like problematic in this area, I should say. All right. Wait, there are companies that advertise on YouTube other than Skillshare? Oh, trust me. This is another company that you have seen. You'll find out when the video comes out. And I'm not going to jinx anything because I haven't signed the contract yet. But this is a company that has advertised on a lot of other YouTubers. Like on a lot of other YouTubers' videos, including people that you like. And it's not Raid Shadow Legends. I have already had Raid Shadow Legends ask me to do sponsorship with them, and I told them to fuck off. So, yeah, don't worry. I'll give you this. H-Bomber Guy has done a spot for them. Question! How do you feel about arguing with people who believe in alternative medicine? Last night, someone on the Discord was saying they were happy to be going to the chiropractor, and everyone got mad at me for saying, like, science says no. Actually, that's a good question, but that's also not a question for me. Or is it? Maybe a little bit. I don't know. In some ways, I feel like it depends upon choosing your battles and stuff like that. Like, my dad, at least I think pre-COVID, maybe he stopped before that, my dad had injured his back playing racquetball in the 80s, and he went to a chiropractor, and he said that, that it works. But I think for a lot of the times, people who go to chiropractors are basically going because they think it's a physiotherapist. Because basically, a chiropractor is a physiotherapist who doesn't have their MD. And so, they're less trustworthy at the whole thing. But not many people really buy into, like, chiropractic medicine as, like, the thing for aligning the energies of your spine and shit anymore. But either way, and so it's kind of... maybe it's different in the UK. I know the UK's got like a lot of a weirder thing with chiropractic medicine, but here it's like it's sort of just its own. It's sort of not much of a thing anymore. But I don't know. Like for me, alternative medicine and woo and junk science stuff, very often, like I've said it many times in the past, is not a thing that comes from like people don't become practitioners of alternative medicine because they have been convinced by the evidence. By the very nature of getting into that stuff, they are, they're not approaching it like, like it's a scientific question. Like they're not like, you don't find out, oh, does Reiki heal you in the same way that like, what's it called? Does Reiki heal you the same way that, for example, do I know that like if I drop a ball it's going to go down? No. But it, because like sometimes it's a mix of distrust of experts. There's multiple like different things that could cause problem, or that could cause this problem, right? And unless you like get to know somebody quite a bit, it's going to take a while to talk them out of it, because it takes a lot of interactions, a lot more of a, looking at things in a more systemic and different way. But it's just how it is, unfortunately. Do you think it's appropriate for someone to call themselves an anarchist when they believe in most anarchist ideals? Anti-capitalism, anti-hierarchy, mutual aid, common ownership, direct management of one's affairs, free association, but aren't sure if a society will be able to remain absolutely stateless even if it's decentralized, like microstates managed in a non/less hierarchical society? Well, Brad Pitt, you raised two good questions. One, you are referring to an actual political current that exists within the sort of greater anarchist cinematic universe, because anarchism is a philosophy that is against unjust hierarchies, that is against, like it has a bunch, like as you said, anti-capitalism, anti-hierarchy, mutual aid, common ownership, etc., etc. There are some people who hold those beliefs, but do think that the state is a necessary construct to exist in some format, and they are called minarchists. And so what you're referring to is a stream in, or a current in, anarchist thought that does exist. I will say it's quite fringe, but it does exist. So that's my answer to you on that. Who's worse, Dinesh or Deepak Chopra? I would say Dinesh. Deepak Chopra spreads like junk woo science for sure, but like, I feel like Dinesh D'Souza is like one of the people who is like responsible for creating the atmosphere that built like a Donald Trump presidency, for example. That's my take there. Alrighty. Okay. Question. Are post-capitalist schools going to be sitting at home listening to boring lectures and then giving multiple choice quizzes on who invented the telescope? No, it is not. Funny joke. Please stop that. Please stop being British. Ruin my fun. How do you feel about arguing with people who believe in... I'll already answer that one. In Germany, there's a petition to make catcalling a punishable offense. It's already in the Netherlands and Portugal. Good idea, yes or yes? I mean, it definitely sounds like a really good idea. I do have some concerns, specifically that if this law comes to pass, it might... I just feel like it might be difficult for... Like, if that law came to pass in Italy, it would be like akin to making Vespas illegal. And I don't know if every single Italian man being in prison is going to work out like on that scale. I mean, other countries it should work fine. I worry about that Italian angle. I don't know why I just want to like say a bunch of silly stuff about European countries today, apparently. There are people who know what their gender identity is. There's a few somewhere. Alright. Do you have a moral obligation not to call the cops unless you really need to? The other day I was out walking and a group of teenagers yelled something at me that a lot of people in my hometown know causes me emotional distress. After I got away, it occurred to me that I could have reported them to police for violating social distancing rules. Did I have a moral obligation not to do that? Yeah, especially if there's a person who is a person of color. Should never, ever report a person of color to the police, honestly. In many ways, unless like you are literally being murdered right now, there's not a lot of reasons to call the police. Hey, True Princey, thank you for following. Welcome to the Orc Gang. More often than not, they'll cause more problems than they solve. There is a lot of skill shards, that's true. Is it Nebula? No. I'll tell you a little bit about that. Nebula is a streaming service. There's this organization called Standard. And a bunch of people are members of Standard, which is sort of like this network of people who have a company that finds them advertisers or sponsors for their video. So they work with brands and stuff like that. But another thing they have is Nebula, which is their sort of exclusive streaming platform. And so anybody who promotes Nebula, that you've seen promoting Nebula, is part of Standard. Like, because it's basically, I think it was started by CGP Grey, the guy who runs Kurzgesagt, and of some like random venture capitalist. And like lots of people that you know are members. Mia Mulder is a member. Tom Scott, like Ollie and H Bomber Guy are both members. There's a big list on their website of everybody who's a member. So, you know, that's like sort of the thing I would say. Curiosity stream, no comment. Alrighty. Suppose you got a pair of conjoined twins only for one of them to be able to survive if they got separated. Should that twin have to demand that they be separated anyway? The other day I was thinking about my reasons for being pro-choice, and I think they'd compel me to say they have to do that right. They do have that right. Okay. Let's try to think through this. Okay. Suppose you got a pair of conjoined twins. Only one of them will be able to survive if they're separated. Should that twin have to demand that they be separated anyway? The other day I was thinking for the reasons for being pro-choice, and I think they'd compel me to say that they do have that right. I mean, in that theoretical situation, sure. That's a very rare situation. Those kinds of conjoined twins typically are separated when they're babies. That have like that kind of a thing that happens. It's usually not a thing that you would do by the time that you're even old enough to have those kinds of decisions. And even then, by the time that happens, they're very much a full grown-ass person with their own things, and that makes the question a bit more complicated. But yeah, if one twin can't live without the other, but the other one can live without the other twin. Like, if twin A would die if they were separated, but twin B would not, then, I mean, they are... it's just the only... Yeah, this is why these situations, when they do come up, are extremely traumatic for everybody involved, and fairly often they are terrible situations that there really is no win. They're very tragic. So yeah. The last episode of Behind the Bashes, they talk about a guy who was an anti-fascist activist in the early 1930s, then hid his past and actually joined the Nazi Party in the late 1930s for the sake of self-preservation. Would the fact that our personal histories are online make that impossible today? I think so, yeah. You're just banned on a political channel for political speech? Oh boy. Why are fascistic leaders always total losers, failed artists, failed businessmen? How do these unimpressive people get personality cults that adore them? I do think that very often these, there's two things. One, they do tend to have an actual charisma about them. Like, I actually think that the people who try to do the... I don't think that Donald Trump is as dumb as people like to make him out to be. He says a lot of dumb things, but, like, the guy's skills when it comes to, like, you know, like having like natural charisma and being able to read a room and like those kinds of things, he does know. He does know how to say, and he actually has a pretty good memory too. I was thinking during the first debate when Joe Biden was struggling to remember like his talking points, Donald Trump was able to dig up like weird obscure facts that he was able to blast him with. Sometimes they were wrong, but sometimes they were like, holy shit, you remembered that like one story that was running for like a couple days a few weeks ago? Okay, interesting. And then when like I found out like when everyone was making a joke about, oh, like the little fishies thing, he was referring to like an actual political issue in California, which was weird. So there's that. But also, to be like to get to rise to the heights that they do, they also are tapping into a moment. Like I feel like fascist leaders need to be like a charismatic individual, but also they need to like ride a movement as it's coming up, and I feel like both of them did that as well. The other day, someone on Reddit told me about an alternate history timeline where Reagan gets the GOP nomination and wins in 1976, but then loses to Gary Hart in 1980. Do you think a Democratic president would have handled the AIDS epidemic much better? Maybe a little bit, but probably not. It was pretty much mainstream in the 1980s to be homophobic no matter what party you were in. So I would say so. Yeah. Okay. What's a minarchist? A minarchist is an anarchist that, yeah, I should say an anarchist that thinks that some form of state is necessary. Isn't minarchism rather right libertarian, though? Wouldn't it be accurate for a left-wing libertarian to use that term? Would it be accurate? I don't know. I don't really know. Maybe I think it could be. I think it does definitely come from, like, the right of the, like, libertarian movement, but, I mean, it, like, by its definition, it's a legit term, but I don't know how it plays in, like, the context and history of how it's been used. Should teachers get overtime pay for grading they do at home? Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of work that teachers do that they don't get properly compensated for. And so yeah, overtime sounds right. Speaking of propagandists, Lauren Southern has a movie coming out. Am I correct in thinking that Lauren Southern recently tried to do a rebranding where she's not a Nazi anymore? Like, she's trying to do, like, a... maybe like a shoe on head type situation. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to the right wing griftosphere to know what Lauren Southern's been up to. I could be wrong. If she's making a movie with Mike Cernovich, then I guess not. In Australia, the former PM Kevin 07 is calling for a royal commission to break up the near monopoly of Robert Murdoch's control of Australian media. Who is worse, Dinesh D'Souza or Murdoch? Oh, definitely Murdoch. Oh yeah, Murdoch is fucking horrible. He's a nightmare. For sure. Historians will be writing about how shitty Rupert Murdoch is. Biden has dementia. Vote for me, I'm running for the U.S. Senate. If you don't like me, vote for the other Biden. I challenge you to a push-up. Listen, fat. Challenge you to a push-up contest. Why? God damn it! Can't believe this is the person that they, like, overtly subverted democracy in order to force on us. I fucking hate it. I hate it so much. I personally think that Nebula should have been a co-op. Would you agree? Sure. We'll say, like, a lot of creators would just like the idea that they're able to pay the bills. So, would you ever recommend grad school for purely career purposes? Really depends upon what you're doing what you're doing grad school for. Like, yes, there are some fields where you kind of have to have a master's degree, like at a minimum, to even be like competitive in your career. Like, for example, engineering master's degrees are pretty, like, that shit's fucking gold. You're gonna walk your way into a 6-figure career with a master's degree in engineering. And honestly, for most of the jobs that engineers do, you don't need a PhD in engineering. So that's like a really good one to get. Another one I would say is MPA, Masters in Public Administration, which is if you want to work in sort of like the government machine, having a master's in public administration, public admin, is a pretty good one to have. And also, if you want to go to law school, there are a lot of master's degrees can be very helpful for getting you into law school. A lot of the history MAs that I knew when I was sort of going through my master's degree were doing so they could go to law school afterwards. It's sort of a circuitous route to getting there, but it is a thing you can do. And then, of course, becoming like a medical doctor or something like that, sure. Or medical research if you want to go into high biology and stuff like that. Yeah. Though you can totally have a career in those. But, like, going to grad school for philosophy to try and become a philosophy professor in our day and age is, it's not impossible. I'm a person who, I'm a YouTuber, so I will never try to talk somebody out of doing a career just because it's very competitive and very hard to get into. But I will say that there are much easier career paths. And if you want to go down that path, you've got to be very dead set on wanting to make an impact on the world in your field. All right. Suppose you got a pair of conjoined twins, only one of them already answered this question. Okay. Let's see. How do you... How do you about publicly blaming progressive non-voters for everything bad Trump does? How do I feel about it? I think it's shitty misallocation of blame. It's like, okay, if you want to get to the position where you want to tell people that if you didn't vote for a candidate that they didn't want to be president, then they are responsible for the person that they didn't want to be president more. You can do that, but you basically are in no position to ever say that America is even close to resembling a democracy anymore. And the problem is systemic in that sense, rather than just like one individual voted wrong. Hey Tristan, thanks for keeping me company for over dinner. Thank you. I hope you like it. Okay. See, the thing is, like, I don't want to, when it comes to sponsorships, I don't want to sponsor anything that is, how should I call it? That is that feels like a scam to me, or that doesn't like provide people with value. Because there's a lot of shitty products out there that I have no desire to sort of like make people get involved, or to push on people, because I feel like it's a monstrous thing to do. Okay. What else we got? What are we looking at, chat? How would you feel about getting rid of lame duck sessions? Like, why not have the transfer of power be immediate? I mean, that'd be nice, but in America, there is a there's a lot. There would take a lot of work. It's all that stuff is like baked into the Constitution, which would require some massive changes. Trump has 99% perfect, accurate recall and a pristine, complex mind. Well, I wouldn't go that far. Remember I said I read a novel that used the Persian Empire as a stand-in for radical Islam? Is that particularly problematic? I mean, the Sassanid Persians were actually an existential threat to the Roman Empire. Radical Islam has never been a real existential threat to the American Empire. This is true. Lots of shit's problematic. Would you ever consider turning one of these streams into a presentation on class about a subject you studied? Like making like kind of like a theme stream? A themed stream? That's a fun thing to say. Would I ever consider it? Yes. Am I considering it right this second? Like, not particularly. Not saying that it's like off the table. I think if there's anything, my streaming is one of the things I need to do. I need to evolve on quite a bit. Like, I think that my streaming is probably like a thing that I should probably work on, because it's like a thing that I haven't really, what's it called? It's a thing that I haven't put a particularly large amount of improvements into lately. Hello, I'm here now. Hello, Birdie. Everybody. Birdie is a mod in our Twitch chat who is also a Twitch streamer in and of themselves and a pretty good artist. Artist that takes money to draw things. And you should do that. You should draw the things. You should get them to draw things for you. Teachers work way more hours after school than they actually do hold classes. It's true, and that sucks. Bernie Sanders was homophobic in the 80s. Yeah, fair. I just don't think that the Democratic Party would be not homophobic enough that they would handle the AIDS crisis better than the Republicans would. That's my take on that. Okay. You know, the third season Enterprise is particularly problematic to treat invading aliens as a stand-in for Islam. I mean, the Zindi were never an existential threat to the United Earth. Radical Islam has never really been an existential threat to the American Empire. Again, true. Yeah, if I remember, while mayor of Burlington, Bernie actually like made Burlington into sort of like a gay, like almost like a haven for a lot of gay people who didn't have a lot of places to go. Tristan, have you seen the YouTuber Bad Empanada? Oh yeah, yeah. I know Bad Empanada. Why does everyone think Tom Cotton will be the next Trump? I think because my guess is because he's trying to establish himself as that. He's trying to ride Trump's energy to a political career, and I guess people think that he might have the resources and charisma to do it. That's arguable. IMHO. Would you ever do a video on Murdoch? Ooh. Old Rupert, eh? You know what? I hadn't, but it's a good idea. Rupert Murdoch is a fucked up person who has had. It feels like it would make a better Tristan Won't Shut Up video than a Step Back video, though. About how Rupert Murdoch fucked up everything. I'll write that down. Rupert Murdoch and how he ruined everything. Alrighty. I have watched Bad Empanada on the reactor stream. Bad Empanada and I, like, he follows me on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. We are mutually mutual acquaintances. All right. Any tips on people who really want to stay at university and do research? Good question. Depends upon what kind of research you want to do. What I'll say is that, like, the humanities, the arts and humanities and stuff like that are just a difficult field to make a like full-on career out of. And so what I would say to you is, if it is a thing you want to do and you are dead set on wanting to do it, just know that it will not come without sacrifice. That you will give up a lot to have the sort of life that you want to do. If you are like in a like if you want to do something that is not easy to turn into a to make somebody else money, you know. And so, if that is the thing you want to do, if you want to get yourself in a position where you might be as young, like 27 at the youngest, and just entering into the workforce, if that's a thing that you are okay with, if that's like having your career set back by like 5-6 years, then by all means, do it. That's I did it. My wife did it, and we're both in. Kelly, I should say, is in a good career that she is that she would not have been able to get if she hadn't gotten her PhD. But just know that it's compared to, you know, just getting a generic job and going out of university and just picking something up. It's harder. It's a lot more work for a lot less pay. So you really got to love that work. With me becoming a teacher in Australia, which has some vulnerabilities due to the lack of freedom of speech and can be easily fired due to the anarchist views I hold. But I want to do praxis, and I am thinking about being involved in some sort of mutual aid organization. Is that considered to be a form of practice? Praxis? Yeah. Like, like, what's it called? If you could lose your job for your political opinions, then staying out of, like, black bloc protests and stuff like that is definitely advised. I would definitely say so. Think X should be a co-op. Do you agree? What company would X have to be for you to say no? I'm trying to think if there is one. Prisons? I feel like private prisons should not be co-ops. They should be non-existent entities. But maybe that's me being facetious. That's me. That's answering the letter of the question, not the spirit of the question. But besides that, like if you had to have a for-profit company, it would be better if it was a co-op than if it wasn't. Do you think leftists in general are too critical of using technology to tackle environmental and climate problems? I don't know of any people who I know people who are I think there's a lot of people who realize that the problem with dealing with right now dealing with climate change and environmental collapse is more of a political problem than it is a technological problem. We have the technology to deal with climate change now. We're just the capitalist state is what's holding it back. And so that's sort of a diagnosis of the problem. But I haven't heard of anybody who's oh no, don't use technology to solve a problem. Just knowing that I'm sure those people exist, but I don't know any. How hard is it for professors to get tenure these days? A philosophy professor who does a podcast I like says basically everyone he works with is adjunct. It's very hard. It's different depending upon discipline to discipline, but it's very, very hard. Most professors that I know are adjunct for now years and years and years and years, and it's a rare opportunity to get into a tenure track job and then to get tenure. I know people who I knew professors and stuff who were in their 40s, 50s, who were still adjunct professors who had to travel from there's one professor who taught at Western who he lived in Toronto and he had a wife and kids, and he had to rent he had to have a regular rental of a hotel room in London because he had to come here to teach at Western because he taught at several universities a week. And so he had to spend 2 or 3 days of the week in London. So he'd have to he had a deal to regularly rent a hotel in town so that he could come here for 2 days out of the week just to teach the classes here. Because that's sort of what you do when you're adjunct. Until a tenure track job comes up, you're basically stuck just fucking around until tenure track job opens up. And then when one does open up, there's usually a lot of competition for it. So you have to be publishing all the time. You gotta be writing books, it's going out of style. You gotta be a very, very active and very competitive academic with no sabbaticals, no big you could get grants, but you're not going to be able to take any time off. You're going to have to be teaching basically all year round while also doing research. It's very hard. And a lot of times tenure track jobs, tenure professors are retiring and they're just not replacing them, or they're replacing them with adjunct positions. And I don't know where that ends, and that's scary. Will the Biden administration move the American embassy in Israel back to Tel Aviv, or is there no turning back for the damage Trump's done? My guess, I would hope that he would move it back to Tel Aviv, but my guess is that the Biden administration, because it makes Israel happy, will probably just quietly hope that everyone forgets about that. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that Trump did that the Biden administration is just going to continue doing, but just try to keep it on the DL so that the libs won't get mad about it. Because now that the president's a Democrat, you're gonna, for anyone who doesn't remember politics before 2016, as soon as a Democrat becomes president, all of the mainstream media that is criticizing the president right now, it will all go away, and they will become sycophants for the president, and they will never criticize him, and they'll just be like stenographers for the government. And so, while a lot of the same shit will happen and nothing will get fixed, they'll never talk about it, ever. Tea or coffee or secret alcohol, in any which variety of said drink is your preferred. Ooh, I do love me a bevy. I do have beer. Maybe I should get beer when I go for my bathroom break at some point. I tend to like tea, but I drink way more coffee. So I guess coffee's... I'll drink all three of those. That'll all make me happy. But like right now, my standard caffeine to get me through the day is provided by coffee. As far as like what my favorites are, I'm a pretty big like craft beer guy when it comes to booze. I like IPAs and sours, you know, like typical craft beer dude bros. Right now we're like in pumpkin beer season, and I'm like such a sucker for pumpkin beer. So that kind of stuff I'm really into. Coffee, I'm definitely more of a light medium roast. I feel like you taste more of the coffee that way. I think like dark roast just tastes like carbon because you've just like burnt the beans. And tea, I typically drink Earl Grey. And yes, I first tried it because Star Trek told me to. And I've kind of stuck with it since. So... how do you feel like Chomsky being like not letting a fascist destroy the environment matters more than like addressing racial profiling right now? I mean, did you see that debate? I saw the clip. I'm not I like the Bad Faith podcast, but I'm not a patron, and so I couldn't see the full I couldn't hear the full episode. But like, I don't know, the whole like vote for Biden or we all die thing. I have very mixed feelings about it. I think I've said many times on the stream that, like, I don't like the way that we're, like, you know, telling people, shaming them for voting for people that they want to vote for. That is the exact opposite of the democratic ideal that we should all be striving for, and so, fuck that. But I also know that things are really weird right now. And I feel like Brianna Joy Gray has a different position than Chomsky does. She thinks that the left should treat its vote, like should try and negotiate with its vote. Because right now we're basically being threatened, and refusing to be threatened is a sign of, you know, strength from the left. But the thing is, you can see that because there's so much division over this question, that it's not really going to go anywhere now, is it? But like, yeah, tough call all around. I really hate that the Democrats put everybody in that position where they're shaming people to vote for people they don't want to vote for because they just didn't want people to get health care. And I can't wait until 2024 when we have our next most important election of our lifetime, and they have to tell us to put our needs aside one more time so that we can re-elect Joe fucking Biden. Yeah, I'm like, oh fuck that shit. They're gonna keep doing this. This is gonna constantly be a thing they do, and we do have to break the cycle somehow. I hope that there will be some new units in our arsenal in the future. Like, I'm sincerely hoping that if this People's Party initiative actually goes through, that might be interesting to try. The other thing that I would love to try is primarying Joe Biden in the next one. That I think would be possibly a pretty cool idea if we can get it to work. Because primarying a presidential candidate has only ever kind of worked once, and it would be cool to see if like we could get like an actual primary challenge against Joe Biden in 2024 that results in him having to bow out because in like a Lyndon B. Johnson almost style. But that's going to take 4 years of some hard work. -3 out of 10 on the stream's cat rating. Yeah, no cats here. They're not even any cats in the room right now. They could get in if they wanted to, but they're just not here. O'Toole wants to move Canada's embassy to Jerusalem because of course he fucking does, man. Do not like that guy. Bernie wasn't homophobic in the 1980s by our standards or theirs. He was like, I mean, he was pretty like accepting and open-minded about homosexuality as back then. Like it wasn't like he was surprisingly woke. There's a lot of times where people talk about how Bernie wrote that weird article in the 70s, but one of the things about that weird article in the 70s that doesn't make any sense to me, anyways, is that like they don't realize that that article he wrote was participating in a sort of intellectual conversation that was going on within radical feminism at the time, which like it showed a lot of stuff that like he had been keeping up to date on, like radical feminist literature in the 1970s. Now, like, there's issues with Bernie. Like, Bernie has not been against getting military contracts so that he can secure jobs for people in Vermont. And I've been told that, like, what's it called? I don't know too much about this, but I think he has a son that he doesn't talk to. Or he has a son that he's not on super great terms with. Or sorry, no, not a son. His son he actually he's on pretty good terms with. He has like 4 kids or something though. He has an ex-wife that they divorced on not so great terms. That's what he did. Mutual raid. That's pretty good. Do you believe the U.S. will have a fascist Republican president in 2025? Ooh. I think if 2020 has taught me anything is that you can't predict things out more than like a month in the future. I don't know anymore. The world, all of the norms that we had established to understand the world that have been built in the 80s and 90s and 2000s don't make sense anymore. And so it's pretty hard to predict how anything is going to turn out over the next few years. What hierarchies do you feel are justified? In situations where like split second decisions and like very fast responses are needed to do something efficiently and to survive, I think that that hierarchies can be justified. Like, I think that, for example, ships do generally need captains in some capacity. That, like, you know, firefighters and, like, you know, fighters in general, like, you know, revolutionary soldiers should probably have some form of command structure because they have to coordinate and they have to make split-second decisions that really can't be brought up for debate. But even on the smaller level, like, I think that a parent has a justifiable hierarchy over, like, a toddler, and that telling a toddler not to do something, coercing them to not walk into the street or something, is like a legitimate hierarchy. Should universal healthcare cover pets? Ooh. I mean, I feel like there are some policy goals that are higher on the priority than getting universal pet health care. Maybe someday, but I feel like that is a ways off. That we have a lot of other things to do before we get to that point. If you're adjunct for more than about 3 years, every hiring committee will simply assume that there's something wrong with you since you haven't gotten a tenure track job already. Yeah, oof. Basically, if you can't get a tenure track job almost immediately, you'll probably never get one. I mean, I think there's a little bit more hope involved in that, but there is something to that as well. In some ways, like, you'll end up on a spiral that you'll never get out of unless you're, like, an extremely exceptional individual. IPAs are dope as hell. Yeah, I agree. If I'm with climate change, people believe that carbon capture will solve the climate crisis problematic, but technology like renewables will help solve the climate crisis. I think that we should, over the centuries, we should start filling in mines with compressed dried bamboo to store carbon and fill in mines to prevent cave-ins. Sure. Sounds like a plan to me. I never realized. I always heard about like pumping the earth full of like condensed CO2, but I've never heard of growing shit tons of bamboo and throwing it in mines. That sounds like a pretty good idea, actually. I like that quite a bit. You have so many abandoned mines too. We could totally do that. Remember when liberals hated Brett Kavanaugh and were completely right in doing so? Then remember how they didn't give a fuck about allegations against Biden? I feel like that's kind of predictive of what will happen if Biden wins. Yup. Not gonna lie, that's probably true. The way they treated Tara Reade says a lot about the sort of like two-faced nature of centrists. Suppose a left-wing president came to power and they decided to treat potential fascists the way 1950s presidents treated potential communists. Would you support that? Like, sort of like a, I don't know, like a fash scare? Finding secret fascists in the government? Well, the thing is, someone did try to do that, and it was kind of like a purge. Typically, when communists do something like that, it's called the purges. I feel like, oh, Tristan copyrighted Step Back Beer. Ooh. Oh, Sargon. Oh. I love that idea so much. I don't know how I could make it possible. But next to the Step Back bobblehead, Step Back Brew would be so fucking good. Oh, man. Oh, man. Fuck. Shit. Why did Karl Marx hate Earl Grey? Because all proper tea is theft. Haha. RE Beer, have you found any notably good sour IPAs? I'm kind of new to sours. Sours are a thing I only kind of got into this summer. And now we're getting into fall where there's going to be not as many sours around. So I would say I have not, because I'm kind of new to the whole sours thing. Earl Grey smells bad. That is unfact. I'm a stout drinker, and there's a South Australian brewery which has a stout that has strong notes of chocolate and caramel. That sounds fun. AOC for president 2024. I mean, I'm not against it. I think it'd be a pretty good idea. I think it'd be pretty rad. I feel like AOC, sadly, is the only, like... Well, I wouldn't say the only, but she is like a true left-wing progressive in American politics who has the national profile large enough to actually mount a presidential campaign in her future. Whether or not she could do it in 2024 is... I mean, it would be unprecedented, but we kind of live in the age of doing unprecedented things, so maybe not. Maybe it's not as radical as it seems. Because like also Nina Turner and stuff could run, but they would need a much bigger national profile, I think. So we'll see where things go. It's be tough. Let's see. How dire does the situation have to be for voter shaming to be justified? I don't know. Don't you primarying Warren? When does her seat come up? Is it this year? Pilsner beer a big deal in Canada? It's kind of weird since it's so predominant in Europe, and I rarely hear of any non-European Pilsners. It's not really, no. As a Canadian, do you ever feel like gall in relation to Rome, USA? I mean, they don't invade us as much, so I feel like we're good on that front, but interesting comparison, either way. Alrighty. Just looking at my computadora. Okay. I hate coffee and drink orange pico, but Earl Grey works in a pinch. Daughter doesn't have great terms with IRC. Who should play Bernie in the movie of his life? I kind of want to say Danny DeVito. That'd be pretty sweet. I've heard that Bernie staffers think that he's a bit of an asshole. A principled asshole, but an asshole. Yeah, he is apparently... I don't think this should affect whether or not somebody is suitable to be president, but he is... He's known for being, not very personable. He's not a very nice man. I think he said in, the New York Times interview, he doesn't call people on their birthdays or things like that. He cares about policy and nothing else. You don't become what's it called? You don't become a creature who works in the Senate for 20 years with or who works in Congress for 20 years being an independent without having basically everybody hate you and being okay with that. Okay. Think there would be a future Republican candidate who's not so awful that letting him come to power wouldn't potentially lead to the end of democracy? Yeah. I think that I could see that a Mitt Romney or a Marco Rubio or something like that is less of an existential threat to democracy. That... if it was Mitt Romney running against Joe Biden, they would be virtually identical in their politics at this point. There is actually no difference between them when it comes to politics, or anything serious, anyways, in their politics. So that's my answer to that. Don't you mean primarying Harris? We'll see. I'll what's it called? I'll believe it when I see it. That's what I'm going to say to that. All right. Okay. Let's see, what am I looking for? Alright. Was Donald J. Trump's middle father really Christ? That would make Donald J. Trump literally the son of Christ. Oh, God. What a goof. What a goofy thing you just said. You should replace your thing that plays before live streams with a video of Tristan and his cats dancing. Oh, boy. Why do you think right-wing libertarians try to claim the radical left American anarchist? who are clearly against capitalism. Question, why do you think right-wing libertarians try to claim radical left American anarchists who are clearly against capitalism? I didn't know that they were doing that. Most libertarians, whenever I think of like right-wing libertarians, most of the time it's like, oh, like most of the time they're just Nazis. Like there aren't that many like actual libertarians that are like their major political issue now is not being able to marry children, which is like the primary thing that just like the primary thing that people do. But like, what's it called? I don't think that's a. Anyways, libertarian to fascist pipeline. Like I don't know. Like I have a plan on making a YouTube video, probably a step back video about libertarianism and how libertarianism, as we think of it, has its roots more in being like anti-segregation. So basically being pro. They'll always say we're not pro-segregation. We're just against anti-segregation, which feels a lot like a certain moment we're having about being against I'm not anti-fascism. I'm just anti-fascist. Okay, you guys know where I'm going with this. Alrighty. We're working as essentially an adjunct for 8 years now. My union, during the last collective bargaining rounds, consulted with a bunch of us. The rep basically opened by saying, we know that the job you have is essentially career death, and that sucks. Is there anything we can do to make that suck slightly less? Oh, God, yeah. There's a reason I did not want to go into academia, that's for sure. Make it a high-level Patreon tier review. Here's the thing, though, is, Bread Pit, is that I'm not necessarily good at making beer, and to make it at a scale where I could sell it to other people, where I'm sure there's some, like, I'm sure that there are laws involved and permits and stuff that I would need to do that I do not currently know how to do. I think it's mainly hierarchies that are agreed upon, necessary, parent-child, or combinations of two, when all sides of hierarchy are equal outside of the situation leading into it. Like a captain isn't better than any crew in everyday life, but on deck they are the one to be listened to. Also the whole Bakunin point of referring to the bootmaker when concerning a boots. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Expertise-based hierarchy makes sense. In a few million years, that bamboo could even become coal, but for a steampunk space program that our uplifted dolphin friends start. What's your take on the million white slaves in North Africa in the 1500s? Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. Talking about the North African slave trade is complex. I don't really know too much about it, to be honest. Hey, who's that? Hey, Bezdomni. Thank you for following. Welcome to the Orc Gang. What's your take on the sexual mutual aid thing? I mean, like, it feels a lot like comfort women, a lot of the things that were said. So I think it's definitely, it's a spicy take, that's for sure. Oh, hi. Look who's here. Look, the negative 3 out of 10 can now be absolved. There is a Phoebe here now. Hey, girl. Hello, my beautiful baby kitty. That's not fair. You're like middle-aged cat now, I think. Let's see. Do you think Biden will run in 2024? Unless something changes, I expect him to. It depends upon what his state of deterioration is. But the thing about power is that, like, once you get it, you get kind of addicted to it. And my guess is that Biden, once he's president, will not necessarily want to live it up, even if he probably should. Because the answer to who should be president is nobody. But the Step Back Brew should have Birdie's artwork of Tristan, but with a keg under his arm. I definitely think that if I made the Step Back Brew, that Birdie would definitely have to make the label, and it would be definitely a new piece of art. Trump's grandmother's maiden name was Christ. Oh, dear. Nothing seriously different in their politics. What about the court picks? I mean, I guess, yeah. Court picks. That as we're learning now, that depends a lot more on who controls the Senate than who is the president. Or, at the very least, it matters both. But, like, I don't know. I feel like, what's it called? I feel like if the human rights of a country are determined on whether a president, I don't know, on which party wins an election could result in tons of people losing their human rights. That sounds like a super fucked up thing that should not be the case. And so, fuck them. Because, when it comes to, actual policy, they'll be identical. Name one policy difference between Joe Biden and Mitt Romney. They're virtually identical people at this point. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me check. No, you can't. All right. Let's give you guys what you really want. All right. There we go. This is the footage you crave. How am I not that behind on the chat this week? It's so weird. Which party do polling errors tend to favor? That depends a lot on the types of polls and stuff done. I think I've talked about this in a previous stream, but polling tends to depends a lot on how the poll is conducted and what person is conducting the poll and the sample size. There are some polling organizations that do result in skewing to one party or the other. They're typically known quantities in that sense. There are that whether or not the poll was done on the phone versus on the internet usually has a pretty big impact in how people change their or have their positions come together. And so that kind of the answer is not a fun one, which is it really depends on what you're doing and what's going on. Alrighty. What am I looking for? It's a fucking good question. Never know what I'm looking for. Okay. Should probably keep my eye on the super chat feed. Now I am. There we go. Sorry if I'm tuning out. I'm just all over the place. All right. Do you think it's catastrophizing to imagine every Republican president for the rest of the time will be a Trump? It's a little bit catastrophizing. It really depends upon how this election turns out. If Trump loses, the Republicans might Republicans and a lot of conservatives might come to the conclusion that, I think there's a lot of Republicans who would see a silver lining to losing this election, because there's neocons, the neoliberal neocons would definitely think that, hey, Trump losing means that they can say that the election, that they can say that Trumpism doesn't work anymore, and that they have to figure out, they have to go back to their other strategy, which was to be less racist. Whether or not that depends a lot on how the next few weeks turn out. Should contract work be illegal? I mean, no, because as a freelancer myself, I live on contract work. But 0-hour contract, there's definitely a lot of very abusive labor tactics that go into how, if contract law contract work should probably still exist. It just should probably be handled differently than it's being handled now. I'll definitely say that. Okay. I suggested trying Innocent Gun. I have had Innocent Gun. Innocent Gun tastes really fucking good. I saw some at the LCBO last week when I went there, and I was really tempted to get some. Because, yeah, Innocent Gun fucking rules. Earlier today, I heard a libertarian YouTuber argue that if we all had to pay for medical care out of pocket, it'd get cheaper eventually, because the hospitals would have to lower prices to the point where people can actually afford it, or else they'd make no money. Setting aside the morality of letting people die to create economic incentives, what are your thoughts on the logic of that idea? I mean, there is something to be said about the fact that, insurance companies existing does cause, because, the price, a lot of the prices that are done in American medical care are so high because they're designed with charging multi-billion-dollar insurance companies and not people paying out of pocket, because they just assume that everybody has insurance when they don't. But sorry, Phoebe has moved on. But so that would help. But I still I think that the fact that it's commoditized is still a problem, and no matter what costs money, no matter how cheap you make it, the fact of the matter is, somebody is going to not be able to afford medical care, and I think that anytime you create a situation where somebody does not have enough money to get medical care, or that getting medical care involves making a sort of budgeting choice, you done fucked up. You done real fucked up. You fucked up real bad. So that's my take there. Okay. Let's see. A lot of people forget that there was a successful anarchist society around the pirates, the Golden Age piracy, but the British Navy destroyed it because of course they did. Yeah. Shit sucks, doesn't it? Okay. When conservatives were complaining about people hoping Trump died. Will Biden be alive in 2024? I mean, it's possible. He's old. He's definitely more likely to die than any other president who's been elected, that's for sure. But We don't get that lucky. And I could see, and if he does survive, then I could see him still trying to cling on to power because people like clinging on to power. It seems that's what Tristan's learning about the world, which that fucking rules, doesn't it? When conservatives were complaining about people hoping Trump died, how many people brought up conservatives practically dancing on Howard Zinn's grave because he wrote a book they didn't like? I think the answer was 0. How would Mexi feel about you saying Medicare for all for animals is a low priority? I feel like Mexi would understand that, like, for example, decommodifying housing would probably be a higher priority than Medicare for all animals, if that makes sense. That's just that's my guess. Mexi's definitely like a radical animal rights person, but she's also like a reasonable human being. Thoughts on the upcoming Saskatchewan election? I don't really know much about what's going on, to be honest. Is alcohol still controlled by the government in Canada? Most of the time it is. It's getting loosened in some places. Like, it really, the thing about Canada that you have to like kind of know is that things vary a lot based on provinces, and different provinces have completely different alcohol laws and stuff like that. Like, we have provinces with different we have provinces that don't even agree on like what the drinking age should be. So it's very different. Let's see. Oh man, 100 proof corn whiskey. There was this like moonshine thing that we would buy in Quebec that was literally like, you'd go to the SAQ, which is like the Quebec version of the LCBO, which is the government liquor store, and at the SAQ you could get something called, that was just ominously titled Al Cool 98%. Which is French for alcohol, 98% pure alcohol. That shit could get you right fucked, and it was really dangerous too. Like, you put it in, you'd put it in like your drink, you could put it in like your juice, and you would be like, oh, I don't taste this at all. Oh, that's real scary. I don't know where that's gonna go. And that ends up with, and it's like, oh, that's deadly. It's a deadly combo. All right. Let's see. Have you ever enjoyed any interactive fiction games? I don't think I have. I've played some. Like, I played, what did I play? I played the first chapter of the Walking Dead game, and I thought that was okay. Be nice to finish that at some point. I also played the first episode of the Telltale Back to the Future game. That I was like less impressed with, but I do plan to play them all at some point. But it's not like it's definitely not a genre game that I like actively seek out, if that makes sense. What will the Trumpists do if the Republicans stop supporting them? They'll either become marginalized again and sort of become like the Tea Party was. or they'll try to run candidates and get more into lower office, which is like a thing they've already been trying to do. If anything, I'm trying to think of anything else they might get up to. Like, the thing is, I don't know, with this internet generation, I have no idea what they're capable of anymore. Terrorism? Maybe terrorism. Terrorism sounds like a thing that they do. Okay. Let's see. Isn't Bernie older than both Biden and Trump? Yeah, but he's a lot more mentally, like, all together. Should Greenland become part of your country? No. Should be left up to the indigenous people who live there? That's spicy take, I know, but that's where I would say. How does Mexi feel about having pets in general? The complicated feelings amongst her about having animals. There's an episode of the Vegan Vanguard where they talk about pets, and like she's like legitimately like I think the way that sounded like, yeah, having pets might not be like the best thing, but also is it complicated by the fact that like we genuinely love our animals and they're cutie patooties. But, like, Phoebe, like, what's it called? Mexi loves Phoebe, and I know that Mexi doesn't have pets herself, but I think her parents have some dogs that she really loves, so. Ever had Green Fairy? I can't say I have. One thing I noticed is the right wing gets attached to the Watchmen, but they forget the author of the comic book, Alan Moore, is an anarchist and a wizard. I've noticed Britain has been suppressing amounts of artists and authors are anarchists, especially in the music and comic book scene. Jeez. Is absinthe legal in Canada? I think it is. I think it is too. I know Kraken Rum has a recipe on their website that uses absinthe. Yeah. I like Kraken. That's another, yeah. What's it called? My first months of quarantine were tolerable thanks to Kraken Rum. I drank a lot of Kraken Rum in like the worst parts of like before they started opening up type stuff. So, yeah. The only good choice-based game is Life is Strange. What's your political ideology first and foremost? See, I mean, I would probably say just to, like, if you want like an easy label to say what Tristan is, anarchist communism sounds pretty good. I am definitely getting interested in municipal, like, what's it called, like Murray Bookchin type stuff. I can't remember what the ideology is called, but like generally anarchist ideas are pretty high on my list. Being anti-authority, being pro-empathy. Those are like my two. Those are my two faves. Why do you love Sargon in your chat? I thought you didn't allow evil people in here. What's it called? I don't know why that person named themselves Sargon of a cab. Okay. Would you think about shaving a goatee? You may be able to pull that off, you know. I had a goatee for years. If you look at like early Step Back videos, I had a goatee. I really grew a beard only like when I started working from home. And Kelly liked it, so I kept doing it. But it is a thing I've done in the past. I have had goatees in the past. Your favorite Canadian food other than poutine? Probably Nanaimo bars, just like this dessert that you can get that's got like... Gosh, I'm trying to remember what's in it. It's got chocolate and coconut and some vanilla stuff. It's pretty good. All right. There's constant suffering in the animal world. I don't get how you square radical animal rights activism with radical environmentalism if you think animal suffering is inherently immoral. It's more just like, hey, do we make these animals' lives better by having them in our house, telling them, like, suppressing their, like, yeah, they live longer and their lives are safer and less pain. They also are unfree. They don't get to do anything that their natural instincts tell them to do. And it's like, is that a prison? Does Canada have a proper cuisine? It's complicated. Canada is a country that doesn't really have a strong central national identity, if any. So there's a lot of local cuisines, that's for sure, but not a whole lot of just regular cuisines. A lot of local stuff and a lot of sort of hybrids that have been made by bringing people together, what's it called? There's a lot of hybrid cuisines in Toronto because of different immigrant groups coming together and sort of making some fusion dishes. Okay. I would have if I didn't have cats as pets. Yeah. What will you do when you catch up with the chat? I'm running out of steam. I don't know. I have a little bit of a desire to wrap up early. I won't lie. I know that's not the thing you guys want to hear, but I do have something else that I'm kind of distracted by that I would love to get to, but I'm not gonna do that if people are still keeping things up. Is poutine as good as it sounds? Been meaning to try for some time. It's very unhealthy for you, but yes, it is very tasty. I'm glad Mex isn't one of those weird animal rights people who tries acting like there's no difference between humans, not like spiders and being racist towards black people. Yeah, those people are very few and far between, and a lot of, even people in the radical animal rights scene think that they're not helping typically. Do you think the Democrats are going to force Trump out of the White House if he doesn't get the vote? If so, how? I don't think the Democrats are going to do it. I think that if the president is escorted out of the White House, it'll be because the Secret Service will do it. And I think the Secret Service has already said that they're going to honor the results of the election. So
I didn't understand that.
The way Trump will steal the election will come because of voter suppression and sowing enough doubt in the results of the election that it doesn't go through. Constantly searching for food and being cold. That is not a prison of a kind. Sure. It's a more complex conversation. I'd really recommend you listen. I think there is you have to find it, but the Vegan Vanguard episode about pets was actually pretty enlightening to me. I haven't listened to it in over a year now, but it definitely had a lot of really interesting things to say that I think, given the way that you're talking about stuff, you'd probably find really interesting. So veganism is great, but is a carnivorous to eat a Venus flytrap? Ooh. Oh, that's fun. I would probably say that the distinction is more about a creature's capacity. Like, for example, Mexi is not only an animal rights person, but she's like a lot of the reason that she is pro veganism is for climate change related reasons. So I would say that is a thing to keep at. Yeah, wasn't there some statement that I think somebody said once, I think Mighty Mouse is kind of referring to it, where with, what's it called? Canada could have been a country that had American technology, French cuisine, and English culture, but instead we chose to take American culture, French technology, and English food. That was, which is a great line. I highly approve of that. You're running out of questions, I'll start shilling myself. Oh boy. Favorite polyhedron? Definitely the dodecahedron. I love my D12. Do you still think that Biden's going to win? I think he's got a pretty good chance of winning. If the election is counted and done in a democratic fashion, even to some extent, I think that even with some extent of voter suppression, I do think that that Biden has a really good chance of winning. The main problem that will come up is whether or not what degree voter suppression and sowing and like making democratic governments negate the results of an election because of the sort of discounting of mail-in votes. And if that happens, then fucking we're just like, what's it called? we're fucking sailing. We're in a weird situation that we won't know what's going on anymore. So at that point, I don't even know, and I don't think anyone does. Okay, what was next? What do you know about what it was like for Muslims living in Soviet bloc nations? I actually don't know all that much. I have a friend who researches that stuff, that very often they were sort of neglected by Moscow unless Moscow needed something from them. But besides that, I don't really know a whole lot. And that's not exactly a unique experience for Muslims in the Soviet Union, as you would know. Aren't some domestic animals basically their own species at this point? Like, I'd say that living with humans is basically in a dog's nature at this point. I wouldn't disagree with that. Top 5 albums ever. Ooh. Favorite or regular polyhedron? That I do not have an answer to. I don't know, I'm trying to think what the top 5 albums would be. I really like there's 2 Iron Maiden albums I'm a really big fan of, which are Dance of Death and A Matter of Life and Death. Those are 2 pretty good albums. I was a pretty big fan of the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. That one made me pretty happy. But I haven't listened to a lot of albums in a very long time, which is sort of weird. 1989, the Taylor Swift album actually is pretty good as for its like design. Are these the best albums ever? Probably not. But I am a Philistine when it comes to music, I won't lie. In the absence of a society to make it so that you don't have to constantly think about food or shelter, what's the value of freedom? To just live your life as you see fit. Like, I mean, food and shelter are one thing, but then, like, your opportunity to have time to yourself, to chase your own interests, to self-expression, to a social life, all those things. Someone's been trained in biology, specifically ecology. A lot of organisms form mutually beneficial relationships that sacrifices are involved, but that is how it is. Yeah. Step back movie stream sometime? Oh boy. The Friday stream already gives me so many copyright notices, I don't even know if I can handle a movie. Were Jews free to worship in the USSR? Depend upon the leader of the USSR. Some leaders were more harsh towards religion than others. It really depended. There was definitely anti-Semitism, though. Have you given any thought to a new non-interactive game to play for the last hour of the stream? I mean, I haven't. I should try doing it. It would make my life a lot easier. I have a feeling that like maybe Tuesday night to sort of, because Tuesday night is like probably the most draining stream I do. Like this stream is probably the hardest one of the week that I do, and having some sort of video game involved with it where I play a video game and then I talk about stuff it might result in me not having the smartest answers in the world, but might help with things. Least useful dice shaped like a platonic solid. Oh boy, I don't have an answer to that. To play Jackbox, one person needs to own the game, right? Yeah, but the last couple times I've played Jackbox games on the stream, we've been brigaded by racists, and so basically I'm like, okay, the stream might be at a point where we can't do that anymore. Could you try Salt of the Earth? It's on YouTube for free. Possibly. I'm down for a charity stream of binging the Marx propaganda anime. I feel like that'd be a lot for me. I'm not like crazy about anime. I know that's like a super spicy thing to say, but I don't know. I've never really been super into anime. Why aren't the canids in North and South America closer related? All South America native dogs belong to Quercetina, where they are either Vulpini or Canina, making them more closely related to Old World foxes than wolves, respectively. I don't know why that is the case. I'm not a biologician, to be honest. Okay. Sorry, I'm liking this music. To keep the community set up, keeping out racist assets. At that point, though, it's not. It really kind of takes away the juice of the stream, you know. What can I do to convince my friends to stop idealizing CGP Grey because he's an entertainer who gives you dopamine rushes with clever talking cute cartoons? I don't know. I wish I did, because yeah, CGP Grey has some issues associated with him that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I do know that he's got a lot of fans. What can I do to answer that? We asked this scientician. South American animals came from the South megacontinent Gondwana, and North American animals came from the North megacontinent, whose name I don't know. Well, there you go. Dingoes were once domesticated dogs that were brought to Australia 4,000 years ago by people in Indonesia. Cool. Isn't CGP Grey a British royalist? Yeah. He's one of those people who has that take that says that, like, oh, people won't come, like, the British provide so much in terms of, like, tourism dollars and stuff, and it's like oofa doofa. Onision's on Twitch and almost immediately got partner. Yeah, I don't know who Onision is, but if you're reasonably famous, like, because there was some people who thought that I might be able to do this, where if you're like pre-famous from like another platform and you decide to come to Twitch, there's this idea that you might be able to that you could, like, what am I even trying to say? Like, that you can get partner basically instantly. This is like a thing that you can do. You can just do it. And there's like some people who had this happen, and I know that Onision's he's a bad sex man, did a sexual harassment or a sexual assault or grooming, or he's done something shitty. I don't know what it is. I just know that people are like, Onision sucks because he did a bad, but I don't know what the bad is. He's reasonably famous for sleeping with underage girls and then sicking his followers on them after they break up. Oh yeah, that's a bad. You should definitely not do that. Steve drops in 10 minutes. Steve? Are you talking about, is this like, what's it called? Is this Super Smash Brothers where the Minecraft character is going to be a fighter in Super Smash Brothers. What do you think is Biden's plan since he avoids the topic of court packing? Does he hope to win and use a Democratic Senate to reform the courts? I think maybe what we're seeing with I feel like he is more likely to he was more likely to support, and honestly, he's probably more likely to succeed with something that's akin to like a mandatory retirement age for Supreme Court justices. That seems like more of like a thing. Is touching other people's dogs a form of violation of social distancing? Yeah, because you can get your particles on the dog, and then they touch the dog, and then touch the face, and yeah. Plus, haven't I heard something that like dogs can get COVID too? Or is that just like one of like the small tidbits that just like flew by when we didn't know shit about how COVID worked? When Americans develop their obsession with gossip and chatter on the British royal family, I think it's been around for quite a while. It's probably older than America, to be honest. There was a report early on of a dog in China getting COVID. Yeah. We know shit about how COVID works now. We know a little bit. We know we're learning more anyway. We know more than we did like 8 months ago. That's for sure. We have more of an idea of how it spreads. Like I remember when COVID first started, like when quarantine first started, like people were like, including us, were like wiping down our, like we were like using sanitary wipes on our groceries. And we realized that, and we were told to not wear masks, if you remember that, and those kinds of things. So, yeah. Why are you two having an argument through me? This is weird. I don't know anything about the evolution of doggos. The old stalking TP and pasta days. The fuck was that? Yeah. Can COVID live on plant life? I think it can live on. It can't live on surfaces for a super long time. And it really only infects humans, so it can't make a plant sick or anything like that. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by all this music. Anyways, why haven't you uploaded much new stuff to Means TV? Is the process of uploading more complicated, or do you just want to focus on YouTube because it's a bigger platform? No, I just, what's it called? I only uploaded the one batch of videos because they asked me for it, and they haven't asked me for more. They asked me for a bunch when they were launching Means TV, and then it launched, and they never asked me for more, so I never got them more. Conservative Party in Norway has control of government, like it's a coalition with far-right parties. To the Labour Party is the opposition. They actually have 49 seats compared to the 45 of the Conservatives. But the Conservatives, since they have a coalition of all the Conservative parties, they form government. I think this is a downside of proportional representation. All right, let's unpack this question because the Conservative Party in Norway has control of government because it has a coalition with far-right parties, while the Labour Party and the opposition and actually have 49 seats compared to the 45 of the... I don't think that's a problem. Like, the coalition part is, like, just kind of part and parcel with how proportional representation works. I mean, it's not great that the Conservatives are in charge, but I think that's a... In the end, more Conservative voters got a government they wanted because there were more of them that voted for it. Have you read Kayana Seth Paul Williams' Kayana Wakoa? No, I have not read this book. Alright. The other day, Mia told me when she transitioned, stuff like subtle misogynist macroaggressions dropped out of her behavior because she started picking up on them when men interacted with her. Do you think that can work the other way around? Like, suppose a trans guy passes really and gets treated as cis. Do you think that could lead to elements of toxic masculinity creeping into their behavior, or do you think that the memory of what it's like to be a woman would prevent that? I imagine that, like, that's not impossible, but I imagine that it's very much up to the individual. For sure. Started watching your channel a few months back. Just want to say I appreciate what you do. Keep it up. Thank you, Nuclear Bacon. Much appreciated. Okay, just asking because I know Mexi has posted new content there. I guess maybe they wait to order a new season of Step Back or something. Yeah, I haven't talked to the people at Means TV. It could be that just Step Back videos aren't really being watched. That could be a thing. I got to have my name in a Fast Company article, and that's really all that made me happy. So, yeah. Okay. Blastocyst humans are evil parasites upon brave and beautifully moral, faultless, liberated women. Whoa. Someone has been reading some, like, 1970s, some really strange circles of, what's it called? Of, like, feminist theory, but, like, some real funky circles of it anyway. Alrighty. Paid sub recommendation of Twin Rabbits video on First Nations influence on European leftism. Oh, cool. Alrighty, it's 9 o'clock, and Tristan is a little burnt out, so I know it's kind of shitty to kind of wrap things up a little early, but my throat's starting to go. I'm caught up with the chat, and I think, like, I've answered a lot of fucking questions. So I think we're gonna take a bit of an early thing. I know that this is probably not what people want to hear, but I might consider changing Tuesday to a 2-hour stream and just talking the whole time, because I feel like integrating a video game for like an hour would kill the stream more often than not. 'Cause you should just come here and expect like one thing when you get to a stream, but I'm not sure where to go. I'm not sure where to do it. I'll have to reassess, because yeah, I feel like the last hour of these streams always ends up with me being very burnt out and not very entertaining and just getting distracted for a while. All right, let's check out someone to raid, shall we? Let's raid Izzy, because Izzy rules. Everyone loves Izzy. And yeah, she's been roofing, so I think that Izzy Bear 713. Oh yeah, Izzy's also raising money for a charity, so we gotta raid her. All right, everybody. I'm sorry this is so early, but you know, take care of yourselves and each other, including, you know, my throat. Have a good night, everybody. And all you people on YouTube.